Today let's talk about some simple marker tips. I'm using these really cheap store brand markers called Artists Loft. They have like a bullet fine point and I mean they're one of the cheapest ones out there. I got 100 pack in a cylinder, you can see here, but they're just, you know, student grade type of things, but good for if you want to just mess around and have fun. So if you're working with markers like these, the first thing you need to realize is that here on the webcam, that looks blue. The circle, the square, the triangle, where I wrote blue cap, but it's actually kind of purple. So these cap colors, they're not very accurate at all. What you really need to do is make a control sheet. And if you're going to use different types of paper, you should do one for each type of paper that you use. Now I say use permanent marker for this. You want to use a fine point Sharpie, and on the end of your markers you want to assign each one a different number. So when you do that, you want to write it at the end of your marker, because if you don't, if you do it up here, just from using it and grabbing it, you're going to rub it away. So give each marker a number. Do a bold line, a medium line, a thin line. Do some blocks. This way, when you're going through after you've made your line art and you're not really sure what color you want, you can look at your control sheet, because like I said, these cap colors, they are not accurate at all, and that's a pretty consistent thing throughout all lines of cheap student grade markers. Now, I think I already said, when you use the Sharpie to write on the marker, you want a fine point one. I wrote this with a fat Sharpie marker because that's all I happen to have right now, but my fine point died. You want to use those because this one is going to make it to where your numbers are going to blend in and you're not going to be able to tell the difference. Now another thing to know, markers like these, see how that color overlaps? You get some darker purple, you get some light purple, and the same thing with the orange. That is why you don't use these to color in big amounts. I suggest you only use these type of markers for, you know, a line art type of piece. You don't want to use it to fill big color areas because this is going to happen. Notice the overlapping. Now, going a little further into that, markers do not produce slim lines. That first line, I kind of held the marker to the side and pressed down hard to get a fat one, and you can just see the different pressures, but you can also see how the lines, they're not really consistent. So you really should use a ruler or a stencil, any kind of graphing tool you can use, because you can even put graphing paper underneath a sheet of white printer paper and you'll see it come through if you have a light box. So that's another great thing to do. Speaking of which, you cannot draw fast with markers like these, because why? They glide. They are smooth and slick, and especially if you're going to use copy paper, which is just plain old white paper. See the bleed through effects you get on the back? They glide and you're going to get sloppy lines. Now speaking about that, let's talk about how at the end of the strokes you usually get a fat ball. See that first one here? The end of it? The lighter I hold the marker to redo that same shape, the better it gets, but you know what? You still kind of get it there. Look at the strokes of the letters. You still get the fat ball at the end of each stroke. Here I held the marker a little looser. It's a little better, but that's why you really need to plan your strokes. If you want to blend in markers, here we go. There's another example of the fat balls at the end of the line. That's, I think, because you're stopping the momentum. All of a sudden, it's there for a split second extra longer, so you get more ink. Now if you want to mix in colors, do lines like these, and then take another marker, do it in between. I used 3 colors in doing that. See what they are there. That's about as good as you're going to get with markers of these types. I suggest you just draw shapes, draw lines, make the control sheet, and practice. Do some cross-hatching, draw some shapes, color them in, practice putting in your highlights. And if you really want to get creative, markers like this, the one great thing that they're for is imitating things like this. This is a Van Gogh, and I believe it's a self-portrait that he made. His style was, you know, short, sporadic lines that like to go around the curve of objects. But you could really have fun if you have fine tip markers like this. And you could even do this with your kid's sister, your nieces and nephews, your kids, you know, they love this type of stuff. So that's it for today on using bullet tipped student grade markers. The biggest things are make your control sheet and don't use it to color in big spaces because you're not going to get a nice result. Unless you're looking for that 70s panel wallpaper look, then I don't know, maybe it might work for you. But that's it for today. If you have any questions about this marker set or how I do it, just give a comment and I'll let you know.